It's becoming my mommy is the best. Super mom, love you, much. She helps mommy get their smiles back, their giggles back, and their sparkle back. You wait for the straw brush. Get ready for it's super discovery and super strong.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Healing for the Soul podcast. It is your go-to resource for parents and want-to-be parents who strive for success without sacrificing connection and well-being. Each episode delivers actionable strategies and inspiring insights to help you build emotional intelligence and resilience for yourself and for your family. Strengthen relationships with yourself, your partner, and your children. Master parenting as an entrepreneur, even while raising young children. Discover life and parenting hacks that simplify your journey. Explore hypnosis and other healing modalities for a deeper transformation. This podcast isn't just about parenting and a fertility journey. It's about creating harmony, wealth, and alignment in every area of life. Let's get started.
This is season 6, and I am your host, Supermom Robin Stoltman. And today's episode is sponsored by Dani Sheriff. And I'm thrilled to introduce her because she is a leading voice in women's hormone health, specializing in helping women who have lost their periods. Her journey into this space is deeply personal. She experienced hypothalamic amenorrhea herself after years of doing everything she thought was healthy, eating clean, training hard, and staying disciplined. On the outside, it looked like dedication, but inside her body was shutting down. It wasn't until Dani worked with a practitioner and learned how to truly rest and fuel her body that she regained her cycle and rediscovered herself. That transformation inspired her to create the HA Society, a community and program that's helped hundreds of women restore their missing cycles naturally over the past 5 years. What sets Dani apart is her science-based approach. She and her team don't just say, eat more until your period comes back. They use proven tracking methods to guide women through recovery. And today, the HA Society has grown into a $1 million company serving women, often high-achieving professionals like nurses, teachers, and dietitians who are perfectionists, terrified of being average, and often desperate to get pregnant. Dani's story is one of resilience, science, and empowerment, and I can't wait for you to hear her insights. Thank you, Dani, for being here with our audience today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, this is close to my heart. It was a situation I was in, and I decided to do something after it, and it sent me back on the journey, back to school and get qualified and all these things. So I'm very excited to be here and talk about my favorite subject.
Well, I'm excited to have you here because there's a lot of women that struggle with periods. Like I've mostly heard of women that have struggled with the hard, painful periods. And I'm like, thank God I've never had that.
Yeah.
And I've also
Me
told
either.
women, I'm like, that's not normal. So that's, I guess that's one of the questions I do have is that normal when women are complaining their periods are painful, that they hurt, and that they're crabby for a reason during that time? Because I've never experienced that at any point during it.
So it's obviously true that it happens, right? But it's not necessarily, it's a symptom that something's out of balance. And you bring up an interesting point in that the subject I deal with most is the complete absence of menstrual cycles, right? But in the process of losing your menstrual cycle completely, you have low hormone function. And that low hormone function can create symptoms of estrogen dominance, which creates crampings and mood issues and all kinds of like bloating, digestive issues.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side of the spectrum of low hormone function is high hormone function, where someone is truly producing too much hormones. And it's a bell curve. Both have uncomfortable symptoms, and it can be quite difficult to quote balance your hormones and have them sit in that happy place in the middle where you're not very symptomatic. But most people have something. Most women will at least have light cramping, which is nothing. It's a few hours of the day. You can get through it without taking anything. You just know it's happening. And noticing a difference in mood. Right? There are times where we're more emotional, times where we're not, where we're more irritable, times that we're not. That would be considered normal. But having those emotions be extreme would not be considered.
Okay. No, that helps because yeah, there's like that light cramping, like you said. But I guess like me having high pain tolerance, it's like I don't even notice it.
Yes, you've had many children, so it's probably nothing for you.
Yeah. Well, I've had eight C-sections in a row. I've got pretty much no feeling for a reason in certain areas. I mean, it's all good. So I'm just wondering, like, you say that you lost your period and you're doing everything that you thought was healthy. So
Yes.
what was your turning point moment when you realized something was seriously wrong?
Yeah, so I, fell to the pressures of society. Like, hey, you should just work to be as thin as possible can, and then you'll be accepted and special and loved. And so I, with my blinders on, went down that path, and I actually lost my period pretty quickly in that journey. And to be clear, I was never particularly thin. I didn't lose a lot of weight. It was more the behaviors that I was doing that I was using to try to lose weight that were the cause, right? There's this misconception that only really lean people or people with eating disorders or high level gym lose their periods. But actually, it can happen to any woman. And so I had just been dieting and exercising in a way that many, many women do. And we not only normalize, but we celebrate and congratulate, right? Oh, you're so good. Look how disciplined you are. And I took that and I would say I added to it, right? Like now I'm going to the gyms 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7. Now I'm tracking my calories and I'm tracking my macros, and now I develop rules. I'm not allowed to have this, or I'm not allowed to eat at this time. And I'm combining a lot of dieting with a lot of exercise. And so many women are doing this. And the challenge is we're all told it's the right thing to do. And so I had lost my period, but I just didn't think anything of it. It was quite convenient, really. I felt that it was a sign that I was working out enough. I was doing more than enough and I wanted that. And though I intuitively knew actually why my period was missing, I happened to intuitively know that it was because I was working out too much. I didn't know it mattered. I was like, well, I'm not trying to have children. I'm not interested at this stage in having a family. So why do I care? Which is very common misconception. People think they don't need their period for their overall health. They think it's just for pregnancy. So I see and he tells me it's a problem and he gives me medication. He says, this should fix it. And that's the moment where I was like, oh, well, if I'm so healthy, why would I need medication? So something's not quite right. And then I went down my research rabbit hole. So that's what happened.
When I'm listening to your story, I'm like, it seems like the doctors have the same protocol for like everything is to just give a medication instead of asking more questions and not testing. And did they ever test you to figure out like what was wrong, or they just like,
oh no, he didn't ask me a question. Like, to your point, he said, I remember really clearly, said, how are your menstrual cycles? I said, I don't have any. And he just said, oh, we worry about women when they don't. And that's all he said. So I didn't get a name of what was happening. I didn't get questions to help me understand why this was happening. And so a lot of women get told they have it as if it's maybe as if it's a condition or a syndrome or a cold or something that here's a pill for. Realistically, and I want everyone to have a lot of compassion for the medical field, because what I've learned over this time is that their scope of medicine and their job is to give you medicine. They're actually not holistic health people. That's not what they do. That's not what they train. When you go to the doctor with a problem, mind you, I was just going for my well women's annual checkup.
yeah,
I didn't go in with any problem. But when you go into a doctor with a problem, they think you just want a medical solution. Like, they think they're giving you what you want. So you really do have to advocate for yourself. And no, I'm trying to determine what's happening here. I need your help to determine what's happening, and maybe then get a lab order or something.
well, no, that helps because it's like I'm just like when I mentioned a little bit before we had gotten started about like for my own history of like I didn't have mine until like a month before I was 14 years old before I actually got my first period. And it's like their solution was if I didn't get it by 14, then I'd have to go on birth control just so that I could get a period. And it's like they didn't ask, from what I can remember, because I can't remember a whole lot before, well, even around age 16, I can't remember a whole lot. But it's like they don't really tend to ask a lot in general. Like even if you go to the doctor now, they don't really ask a whole lot of questions, or like, can you help me figure out what's wrong? Versus them just saying, oh, here's a pill because you are right. Like they're just trained to give medicine. They're not trained like on the holistic part of what we can do better or to help ourselves, which is, it's sad, but that's also how people stay sick, at the same time, because they're not aware.
True.
That's why
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I was excited about having you on.
Yeah, and your point, right? Because the medication keeps people sick. I want everyone to know there is no medical solution for So what they gave me, I know now, is progesterone, which is very common. It's like a 10-day pill you'll be given. And what they're actually trying to do with that is just force a bleed. And it works one time and one time only. It skips over ovulation and just forces anything you have to bleed. And if you have hypothalamic amenorrhea, most of the time it won't bleed at all, and so nothing will happen. So there is no medical solution. The pill is not a solution. So unfortunately, like going to the doctor for HA, for anything other than a lab order to confirm diagnosis, it's not a good place to go for it. And I don't say that because I don't like doctors. I say because, and this is really interesting, amenorrhea is a naturally occurring process. It's not a dysfunction, a syndrome, a disease. There's actually nothing wrong with it. That's what's really interesting about it. There's technically nothing wrong with you because you have amenorrhea. The body is used to turn your reproductive hormones off or down, regulate them strategically for your survival in this current environment that you're in. So if you're way too stressed, if your body's in fight or flight and is just like, we're not safe, which happens when people go through traumatic events, or if you're chronically over exercising and dieting, you literally don't have enough energy coming into your body to run all of your bodily functions. The bank account is running on empty. So the body says, well, the brain says, well, first priority is pump your heart, create blood, pump blood, breathe with your lungs. Let's stay alive. That's priority number one. Staying alive is priority number one. What we don't need right now is to get pregnant. What we don't need right now is a perfectly optimized digestive system. So let's slow that down and create things like constipation and cramping. What we don't need is a really well-regulated body temperature. So let's bring that down. And now you'll be cold a lot, but you can just put a jacket on. There's more important bodily functions for being alive right now, and there's ones that are less. All of those things that are important, if chronically left unresolved, creates problems, right? Because eventually it's like a Ponzi scheme. Like eventually you're going to run out. But for the immediate time, it's a really smart mechanism to keep you alive and functioning when you don't have what you need. So it's more of just like a down regulation into a suboptimal state. But that's why going to the doctor is not particularly useful, because there's nothing wrong with you. That a medical, like anatomically, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have a disease. There's nothing in medicine you can clear up. This happened from your lifestyle.
That's quite interesting, because I'm just thinking like that would explain like that. I've met one woman in my life who had anorexia, and she was, I know we were like teenagers at the time. She had anorexia anyways, and she was basically like a skeleton with just skin on. And she never got a period. But it's like I never really understood like the point of a period. But like what you said, it's like it's not just for having babies. Like as I've gotten older, like I've realized like it serves more of a purpose, because it keeps all the hormones in check, not just one or two. It's like we need it for a reason. But at the same time, I've also heard from women that when they've gone through like the menopause, or there's like a perimenopause, I don't think us women are treated very good in general. I'm just saying, I'm just like overall, it's like, because that's what I've been hearing now. I'm like, well, when does premenopause start, or perimenopause? And I'm like, I don't understand any of this stuff. So I'm like, all I know is that we need a period. It helps regulate our bodies, and that it's a good thing that we have it. And that whole cycle thing, like when they say like every 28 days, and then like if you don't have like day 45, is all of that really true and necessary. Because to me, I'm like, for having the amenorrhea myself, it's like I go anywhere from 26 to 45 days. Like that's my normal for me. But I've also had kids in between. So I mean, like, I kind of lost the normal out the window about 13 years ago, all back to back. So I'm just saying, like, for a general audience that doesn't have that like I do, is that normal in that amenorrhea cycle?
So there's parameters we're looking for, right? So it's not like if you don't have a 28-day cycle, like you're not perfect. That's not a thing for sure. There's parameters, and you could be normal having cycles anywhere from between 24 days apart through to 35 days apart. And then anything shorter and longer than that is starting to go outside of those parameters. And what those parameters just help tell us is that your hormones are functioning in harmony at the time, in the balance that they're supposed to. So if they're leaving those parameters and your cycles are a bit short or your cycles are a bit long, that's giving us some information that something's not quite optimal. Is life optimal? No. And it tends to be that your cycle mimics your life. So when you go through times where you have a 45 cycle, there's a solid chance that you can reflect on the past month and a half and say, it was kind of crazy. Like we had to travel a lot. The schedule was insane. So-and-so was sick. Nobody slept. Everyone got, nobody slept for 2 weeks. Like that's going to show up in your chart. So the chart mimics the life. So if you look at the 45-day cycle and say, that makes sense, you have that information. And so, right, well, let's do what we can to dial that in a little, because you don't want to go every month 45 days apart.
No,
it's not as ideal, right? But you're doing way better than someone without a cycle. Let's put it that way. And there's always something you can do to make it better. And for many women, especially when you have children, I have a 4-year-old. I don't have one, but even just having one, I can tell you there is a significant chunk of your life where living your life in the ideal way to optimize your hormones, right? And that's like a big part of being a woman. So there's an element there of like, okay, I know this is the ideal cycle parameters, but am I going to live and die by the fact that they have to be perfect? Absolutely not. That's not the point. It really just gives you an idea of where you're at, and like make sure you're not getting further backward, right? So there's that, and inside of that parameter of like 45 days are others. So there's your follicular phase. There's did you ovulate, yes or no? What was the quality of that ovulation? So how many days between ovulation and when you bled? What are your baseline temperatures? When you chart with the fertility awareness method,
the BBTs.
Are they low? Are they high? Was your bleed heavy? Was it too light? Was it ideal? These all give you an idea of what hormones are doing what. But the beautiful part is, there's a big range of normal.
How come they didn't teach any of this in health class?
I know. I would love to. I think it'd be so amazing to go in and talk to those girls face to face of just like, here's what you need to know. And here's what means what's going south.
Well, yeah, that would be very helpful, because I'm like, all I remember, well, I'm also 39, but I'm like, all I remember is being told we're going to get a period. Here's a pad and life sucks.
Oh, yeah. And you will get pregnant at any time.
Yes. Oh,
so
yes.
Be careful.
And that never...
It's like not how it works.
No, it's not true at all whatsoever, because I'm like, I dealt with the infertility. I had that, and that sucked. But a lot of it, like I've figured out, was, when I look back on it now, was lifestyle and my mindset. Those were the two factors that caused the infertility. 100%. Lifestyle and the mindset.
If I
didn't have to do anything else.
Vast majority of the time, to your point, like the vast majority of the time that people are experiencing infertility is they don't need IVF. But they all go through it. There are people who do need it. Obviously, there are people with unexplained infertility. I have clients where we reach a point where I go, you should be pregnant by now, so this is weird, so let's go look at it. But most women, and some interesting stats for HA, I actually just did a report on this last week, out of a 156 women data set that I have, 146 of them eventually became successfully pregnant, with only 21 of them having a miscarriage before becoming successfully pregnant, and only 6 of them going for fertility treatment, of which a portion of them didn't need to, they just wanted to. So that shows us that lifestyle factors for low hormone function are very reversible, and pregnancy can happen naturally for the vast majority of women.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing is that they're not taught this. That's why I said like about the period, is that they're not taught how those lifestyle habits affect the getting pregnant part. Because you said it was like 100. You said out of 100 people, or 1,000 people? You'd said
156. This is just like specific. I had reached out to, because we've been in practice since 2020. But at the very beginning, I wasn't tracking everyone's outcomes very closely. So I had to go back, and of everyone I was able to get to reply and that was able, or data that I already had, ended up being only 156. Out of them, 146, fell naturally pregnant and went full term, awesome. No issue.
That is awesome. And so that alone tells that it's like, that's the issues. Like, you need to really, really track. So that's one of the things that I've even asked, like my doctor, I'm like, like after having a baby, you don't get your period back right away. Typically you don't if you're breastfeeding. So for me, it's like, I typically don't get mine back until about 6 to 8 months. Sometimes it's 10 months. It's been 6 to 8 months. Anyways, even in that, I'm like, if you're listening and you're in business and you're right at that time of like when your period's going to start coming back, it's like, it's going to come back because, well, you're not breastfeeding as much. That's one of the reasons why it does come back. But even at that, when's a good time to start charting like the BBTs? Because that's what I did to help get pregnant in the first place, was like I kept charting religiously on that, like same time every day, like the whole, because I wanted a baby. So it's like, when is a good time to start charting? Was that while you're breastfeeding? And things are going on, because like what you said, you brought up a couple good points. Like earlier in the conversation when you were talking about like, well, you're traveling. Oh, I didn't get sleep. Well, we got sleep. We got 2 weeks of sleep. Like when you were talking about how like that affects us, like when's a good ideal time to start charting? Do you wait till after, or like?
Yeah. So postpartum, it's a little bit goal dependent, and everyone is different. Like most people don't get it while they're breastfeeding, at least while they're mostly breastfeeding. Most will get it during weaning, because in order to like truly have lactational amenorrhea, you have to be exclusively breastfeeding on demand and co-sleeping. Like these are the things you have to be doing if you cause lactational amenorrhea, which people do. It's very old school that they used to do it just as a natural family planning. If you want to have another baby quick smart, I get this all the time. A client will email me, yay, we're 10, we're 11 months in, we want to start thinking about baby number 2. What do I do? What should my expectations be? And the first thing I get them to do is tell me, well, how weaned are you? What are we talking, one a day? Like, and if you're down to 1 or 2, you could start charting for sure. I'd say if you're majority weaned and you really want to know what's going on, you can. And then you would start making sure, so you can use it as a diagnostic tool. Your baseline temperature, are you in Canada or are you in the US?
I'm in the US.
So in Fahrenheit, you should be 97.4 degrees and above at any given time before ovulation, right? So you wean mostly, you start temping, and if you're low, well, that gives us information that you're further away from ovulation. So that allows you to make lifestyle changes. Maybe you need more sleep, maybe you need more food. And you can use that as a way to get yourself closer to ovulation. So that's why it's a good time to do it then and there. So you can kind of use it to help yourself along.
That's good to know, because I'm just like thinking like, when there's certain parts like in business, it's like you don't want to have, like, I'm not saying children are bad at all, because I've got a lot of them. I love children. I'm just saying I know that not all women want to get pregnant like when they're starting a new business, or they like to push it off forever, and then it's like, that's why you only end up with 1 or 2, and it's like, okay, whatever.
I'm like, I don't know if I can do it all. So.
Well, yeah, that's why I said I'm like, I'm trying to be nice to the women that probably is typical out there, because I'm atypical. I'm not. Yeah. I'm a different breed. Because when you said about like the traditional, like the breastfeeding, like the co-sleeping and all that, I'm like, I fit into that category, like on demand and everything for that part.
Yeah.
But
you actually just reminded me another way. Yeah. Sorry, just because.
No, you're fine.
Right. Another good time know it's stuff is that you're getting to sleep majority of the night. If you're waking up 2-3 times a night, you can't use basic body temperature. It's not going to be accurate or useful. Once you're now sleeping 5-6 hours, you could stop. That's another.
Well, that's good to know, because no, that's good to know, because I know I didn't know how, like, if the hours of sleep made a difference or not on that part of it for the temperatures to actually be accurate. Because that's like one of the things, like when I was going through my fertility journey, I was like, the doctor didn't really tell much. All they just said was just relax. After like 3, 4, 5, 6 OBs later, you still give me the same, just relax. One doctor told me just to get drunk, and then I'll get pregnant.
I mean, I understand. I do actually understand intuitively where they're coming from. Sometimes some women do just need to chill out.
Yeah, they do.
But like, it's a very hard one to, like, don't, tell that to someone at your own risk. The other thing, if you don't want to get pregnant, right? Like, we're one and done, or we don't want to get pregnant again for quite a while, and you start seeing cervical mucus, it's wise to start charting, right? Because if you see cervical mucus, you are now considered fertile. You could get pregnant in that moment if you're not careful. So contraception, 100%. If you start seeing signs of fertility in general, you're going to want to start charting so that you avoid pregnancy.
Well, yeah, that's why I was saying, like, for the women that are into that, like, they're starting a new business, they don't want to necessarily get pregnant, or maybe they do. I'm a special type of breed. But I'm just thinking, like, if they don't want to get pregnant, it's like, how could they use this information as a tool with their periods to help them? Because it's like when they are performing, like, for example, I'm not saying that we're North Korea at all whatsoever, because we are so far from North Korea. I'm just saying, like, I've learned that North Korea, the women there don't get their periods at all. And it's because they're trained in the military and they're so stressed and they don't get enough food. That's why they don't get their period there. So that's why I'm thinking, like, you don't want to be that stressed out in business. Not saying you get that heavy of stress, but I'm just like thinking, like, where would you want to be like, okay, this is where I need to pay attention to in business. I need to maybe pull back, I don't know if I'm asking my question correctly.
No, this is relevant for anything. Like, if you're an athlete, you really want to perform really well, but you also need to track your cycle, because if it's not going well, then now you're just overtraining. If you're super stressed out of business and your cycle back, this is an alarm bell from your body saying, you know what, we're doing too much. And this is individual. This is a big part of why we do one-on-one coaching, right? It's because it depends on the person, the resources they have, and what the unique cause of their stress is. So if you can really look and say, okay, maybe it's because I take 7 clients a day. This is time for you to think about scale, right? Is it time for you to find a way to scale, to hire someone? If you are taking 7 meetings a day, 5 days a week, and you're not making the money to hire someone, you're doing something wrong in business. Right. So there's a lot of things that into that. But the short answer is, yeah, it's time to stop, drop, and roll, reflect. Where am I being pulled too much, and how do I fix this? And that could look a variety of different ways for everyone. But 100% your business should not be a detriment to your health.
That's what I'm wondering, like, because, like, when you're a high achiever, it's like you're trying to constantly succeed, trying to get more. And then that's like, okay, the warning signs. So that's good to know. Like, we can actually use our period as, like, hey, the bells and whistles are going off. You're not paying attention to the other signs, because Lord knows I've hit that before myself. I'm just saying, I think most of us do. And then we ignore it. And then we're like, oh, well, maybe if I would have paid attention a while ago, back when my body was craving, like, the sugar and the stuff that I normally don't crave, then maybe I wouldn't have had the problem now. And so I'm just wondering, like, with, like, the competitors in the market, because there's a lot of people out there, how, like, when they're saying just, like, eat more until your period returns, like when women have lost a lot of weight, for example, like 50 pounds or more, what's wrong with that approach? And what do you do differently with that science-based tracking?
Yes, a couple things that are challenging with that approach. There's actually not really anything wrong with that approach. One is just that there's people who won't do it, right? So they're just like, fundamentally, I've gotten so deep with how particular I am, how I eat, and how afraid of food I am, and how afraid of weight gain I am, and yada yada, that they're just not going to do it. So a program that no one's going to do doesn't help anyone. So there's that. If you're able to just go ahead and eat to recover, go ahead and do that, because that's a simple, straightforward way to approach it. The challenge for those people who are happy to do that is it's just not a long-term strategy. There's a few people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to eat and I'm going to eat for the rest of my life, and this is totally fine. And that's great. That's awesome. But most women are like, okay, I want to get my cycle back, but I still value, eating in a healthy way. And I still value exercising a lot. And so now we need to redefine what a healthy way means, because what they used to think healthy was actually just restriction. So how do we, like, I don't eat gluten and I don't eat a lot of fat and I only eat lean protein. And, these are actually just restrictions disguised as healthy habits, right? Labeled as healthy habits, but are actually just ways to eat less food that people don't realize that they're doing. So there's a link and redeveloping your relationship with food aspect that has to happen. That is difficult to do if your approach to recovery is just eating the food, but you're not you're healing or redefining your relationship with these things and learning how to exercise and eat in a way that is making you more healthy versus taking away from you in an obsessive compulsive way. So there's that. And then our science-based side of things, not a lot of people, except we have a certification, so we teach people how to coach in this way. So there's now more of us. We use the fertility awareness method as a way to help women see if their diet and lifestyle habits are moving them closer to period recovery or further from it. So if they're afraid, which is very common, to eat more food, that's usually coming from a place of, I'm scared that that's just not the answer for me. What if my hormones don't recover and I just gain all this weight? It doesn't work for me. They're lacking evidence that the process is helping them and working for them. And they fear that they're that one person this isn't going to work for. And that's a very common mindset that people come in very afraid, which I was the same way. So we use this method to show them, hey, look, when you ate more, cervical mucus produced, you've been dry as a desert for 5 years, and you ate more food, and now you're producing mucus. Or you ate more food, and your baseline temperature went from 97.2 in a week to 97.5. That is objective, definitive evidence that you cannot argue with me about that this process, and that helps create like a neurological rewiring in their brain. They're seeing it, they're experiencing it, and they're knowing along the way that their body is moving closer to recovery versus I'm just going to keep eating until one day I go to the bathroom, right? So like they're just getting this positive reinforcement or negative, sometimes it's a case of, hey, you're not making progress. And I notice you haven't been you've been resistant to change, right? And so now we have something tangible we can look to, and now we can, because so much of this is like, this is how I feel. This is what I think. I'm gaining all this weight. I think people don't love me. I think that this isn't working for me. And we can move that with this charting method and make it very straight line from A to B.
I like that though, because it's like when I'm glad that you said that about like for the weight loss part of it, because like I've noticed that like with a couple of different people for like the hypnosis with weight loss, even I'm like, they're scared to eat more food, but it's like if you have more food, you actually lose weight faster, depending upon what type of food. Because like I noticed that like when I was in Weight Watchers before all the kids again, it's like I ate more food, but I lost the weight faster. And then it's like I swell up all the time, and that's kind of, well, it's the food that does it for the part of for why I swell. But then the other is like there was a nurse that said, well, drink more water, that would help. And I'm like, how would drinking more water help me with the swelling? And it was kind of funny. She's like, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but just do it. Swelling goes down. Like I still have this swelling because I have a medical condition for that part of it. But it's like, even at that, it's like, you don't think it would work, like what you said, but now you're adding the data part of it. Okay, now we have data. So you can take your thoughts and your ideas, you can keep them, but now we've got proven hard data that this is actually working, because like you said, your temp's going up, and then you had mentioned that things are the cervical mucus is going up, like those changes. So then I'm wondering, how does that affect sex then too at the same time? Like, would that affect like your body's ability to be moist like when it needs to be? Like wet when you need to be?
Yeah. When
Or
you
no?
have
Because I know there's
hypothalamic,
women that struggle with that too.
yes. When you have low hormone function or hypothalamic amenorrhea, you have no libido. And so the men and women have reported the exact thought of, I could never have sex again and be absolutely fine. Like, just it is
Yeah.
gone, right? And that's a concern. So, and sex is painful, right? They do require a little lubricant or something, to make it happen. When your hormones start coming back online, you want to have sex, your desire returns, even if only certain times of the month. That can be normal for people, but it returns, and it's more comfortable to have sex. So these are all, these are all symptoms of being in HA and coming out of HA for sure. And it can that is individual though. Like, for some people, sex drive comes back first, and for some people, it comes back last.
Yeah, me, I'm like, I can go without. I'm just saying, but at the same time, I'm like, I didn't know if that was actually part of this amenorrhea because the doctor just said, "Oh, yep, you've got it," and I'm like, okay, that's great, but I know nothing about it. Other than like, it's a good thing, I think, for me.
If you're fine with it, you're fine with it. But a lot of people, it's like actually a number one concern. So,
Well, no, and that I understand because, like I said, when I was in my own infertility journey, like it was a huge thing for me. But now I'm like, I don't worry about it because I've got all the kids. So it's like
yeah, I think you
it's
just have a lot of
okay.
kids.
But yeah, I think that's where that's at for me. Like at that time, like I said. But at the same time, I'm like, I still think that it's like we're not taught about this. Like I said, literally, that's why I asked, like, does this affect like the bedroom? Does it affect, a whole slew of things? Like,
It also affects like your ability to be patient, and it makes you more irritable and irrational, which I
really?
think is you lack, like, when you have amenorrhea, it's typically lifestyle enforced, and part of, like, it's the chicken or the egg. Is it because I'm enforcing this rigidity,
Yeah.
and now I'm becoming really neurotic about my rigidity, and so don't mess with my rigidity. Like, no, we're not going to spontaneously go out for dinner. I need to check the menu first. I didn't plan my food all day around
Yeah.
whether or not we could go out for dinner, or the thing I ordered or the thing I cooked, it wasn't right. And some behaviors too are like meticulously making your meals in a way that it has to be perfect and exactly what I want to have. Whereas you and I know, at a certain point, especially when you have children, you're like, I'll just eat whatever is available. And that
Yep.
is
I'm at that phase.
that's actually a healthy mindset and healthy relationship to have with food, and to have neurosis around food or around routine. Hey, we can go on vacation, but we have to go to somewhere that has a gym because I need to be able to work out. And if we don't, I'm going to hate my entire vacation. These are not normal, and these are not your personality. These are symptoms of chronic low estrogen.
That's good to know. Because I never would have thought of that. That's why I'm asking so many questions. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I love
this
these
is really
questions.
fascinating. Yeah, because I'm just like I said, I've already said it like third time now, but it's like we're not taught this. Like, here's a good question: why do you think we're not taught this?
And so it's strange or not, because it's technically basic anatomy and physiology, right?
Okay.
Like, a lot of doctors don't even fully understand like how the reproductive system works and how women get pregnant and all of the things it's connected to. So that one, I don't know. And you could have like the outcome, they just don't care about women. That's totally possible. But honestly, like, I'm with you. Every day I am shocked at something I've been told someone was said or ignored about, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. I've only been neck deep in all of this stuff for like 7 years, right? I'm still trying to understand why everyone doesn't know about this. I don't know. It's very strange. Very strange.
Well, yeah, it is because I know it's like I just think about like the fertility journey. Like when I was going through it, it's like you see, I seen so many different OBs, and it's like they would tell me like I said, the one said just go get drunk, you'll get pregnant, and then the other ones like just track your cycle. So I tracked them all the time, but it's like we're not told these things like about the luteal phase, and then like the different I know there's the Loodle and then there's another phase. I like watching
Yeah,
like the YouTube, like this is the crabby phase. This is the phase I want to eat everything. This is the phase just leave me the hell alone phase. You know, that's
on
the
the
phases
business
I
side,
think of.
women will notice that many women notice that they have more ideas and they build more things in their around ovulation. So like right when I'm ovulating, I'll be like, I have an idea for a lead generator and I'm gonna build the entire thing today. That's a very ovulation energy thing to do. Whereas like in your little phase and you're just like, I could not look at my inbox today and be fine. So it's that's like something too for people to pay attention to is it's okay if there's a project you don't want to work on right now. There's a chance you will want to work on it next week. So now
That's one of the things I just started telling myself because I'm like I said, when you're high achiever and you're in business and it's like, okay, I just decided to tell myself, I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell myself I can only do XYZ on this day. And then I'm going to have to wait to do it the rest of it on this day. And it's painful right now because I'm just starting this and this is new. But I'm like, it's okay because I can wait. I can learn to wait the delayed gratification that everybody can benefit from. It doesn't always feel good, but it's necessary to help that. So that's one of the things I'm wondering too. Like when you talk about like the exercise, like when women are purposely looking for like, I need to exercise to go on this trip, otherwise it won't work. Like when that becomes part of that of the woman's identity, how do you coach someone who's terrified that resting means losing themselves?
that's like almost close to 100% of what we do. Like the hormones and hey, eat this and blah blah, and is like 1%, and then the rest is giving people this permission and helping them just reevaluate the world around them. I believe this to my core. When you watch like a cult documentary and you're just like, these people believing this stuff, this guy, this is craziness.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, so you're believing, you're like, this is I would never, Meanwhile, these women are like, they're binging this cult documentary, but they just got back from making sure they hit 20,000 steps. They're eating only the high protein ice cream and they're eating their 100-calorie snack packs. And they don't realize that they have been conditioned from day one that they are not good enough. They will never be enough. Their body will not be okay unless it looks a certain way. And you will only be loved and accepted. And opportunities will only happen for you when you look this way. That's insanity. That's craziness. But they've been conditioned to believe it and they've never questioned it. And having HA is such a blessing. It truly is, because it's fully reversible and it's the easiest, you say eat food, but it forces you to open your eyes and look around at everything you just believed for the last X amount of decades.
Oh yeah,
and
it does.
that is a shift, right? So we wrestle through that way. Like why do you believe what you believe? Okay, you're scared of gaining weight. That's the layer of the onion. But why? But why? To get down to it, they're worried they won't be loved and valued. They're worried this is the only way that they can be valued in society. And once we understand that that's why we're doing what we're doing and how we got in the position we got in, then you can really just start thread by thread, thought process by thought process, a thought, and then looking at it and deciding to have a different thought. You will always feel this way. This is the society we're in, but it's it's what you choose to think next and choose to do next. And we really help find, okay, who do you want to be? Because once women realize that this is how they've been running their life, they realize, they're like, well, I don't want to be that way. If you want to be that way, go ahead. Like, you probably are not hiring me, right? These people don't want to be this way. So we're chipping away at it. And it kind of becomes a lifelong rebellion.
Well, no, and that's very helpful because like you hit a lot of important points as you were speaking about like how you've got to chip away. That's like they say like peeling the layers of the onion. That's why they always compare like to an onion, and I'm like, well, that's why when you compare like when you're doing the onion, that's why a person cries, because each layer you're losing a little part of that.
I never even thought about it that. way. I love it.
But I mean, like, even in that, it's true though, because it's like you peel one part, you're crying because you're losing that part, or you think you're losing that part, but really you're gaining a whole new you, and
Oh,
it's amazing. Like when you said
and
about how everybody's like, oh, like we're programmed that we've got to be this way and this way and this way, and my husband, I told him a couple weeks ago something, and about like for our daughter, like you have to know how to cook, how to clean, how to do that things. My boys are learning how to do it on their own, but my daughter still has to learn how to do it. And it's like he didn't realize like I was programmed, because I'm like, I'm a woman. Like we are programmed that we have to do things in a certain way. We have to look in a certain way, like what you said. Like even for speaking or doing certain things like out in public, we're trained, we have to look like we're sex objects, nothing more, nothing less. And if we don't, well, then
Mhm.
you're passed over. I can tell you, I've gotten passed over because, well, I'm not fit right now currently. I've got a lot of kids, so I get passed over. And then I'm also too young, according to the boomers and beyond. But I'm just saying, it's like I've gotten passed over for those three things. And I know that. And it's like nobody has to tell me that. You can tell in their energy and how they come across. But it's like if you're not the skinniest, the shiniest, prettiest person alive, then you're not wanted. But then it's like that's not realistic either when you're looking at, well, I want to get married. I want to be able to have relationships. Like I want real. And then when men sit there and like, here's a question I've always wondered. I was like, with men, why is it okay for them to fall apart basically? They get the belly. Why is it
I know.
okay for them to look like they're time men are 40 as a whole? They're fat, broke, and then they complain. Same can be said for us women too. But I'm like,
Yeah,
do
because
they
like there
ever
seems to be
wonder?
a different standard on acceptance behind it. And I mean, I think about it, and sometimes I'm surprised by men, because a lot of men will, you're like, I actually they often have a wide variety of what they deem beautiful and things. Obviously not all of them do, but a lot of this women competing with women, which is probably something that is primarily hardwired in us from a time that we no longer have to worry about, right? Like a time of scarcity, women are
Yeah.
weaker, women historically can't hunt, we can't fend for ourselves, we are prey. And that,
Yeah.
so we fight for the most viable, and that is something that, I can get behind being something that is wired within us from instinct, but it's not necessary anymore. And evolution requires one person at a time behaving differently and differently over and over again for that to change. And so, no one's crazy or wrong or bad for having these experiences or these standards or whatever. But we do need to look at it and be like, okay, but is it valid? Like, does it make sense? And it's between you and your partner, right? It ends up being between you and the person that you choose at this stage, I think. And how you raise those children, because they're the next version, and that matters.
Well, and I agree with you, but that's why I also like at the same time I'm like, why does it seem to be okay? And it's like, because when we're talking about like the identity part, like that's very real part of it. Like how many women are scared that like when they lose weight, their partner's gonna leave them?
You mean gain weight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they lose weight and then they gain it back, and it's like that's part of that societal program, I think, in a way too.
Yeah, and it's out there. It's not a fear I have, right? Which means I'm in a good relationship, right?
Well, yeah, I don't
And I
have that
guess,
fear at all. I'm like, there's the door if you want it, but I got all these kids.
yeah. Look, I don't know, but what I do know is that it's BS and that it needs to change, and that there's an element of us doing it where we're exasperating it a little for ourselves, because we're continuing to push the bar back for what is perfection, what is acceptance, what is
True.
like elite and whatever. And we're doing it, it's getting worse because we're editing images and things are not realistic anymore either. We're entering into a very strange time that I am nervous about, but I choose just not to partake.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Same here. But that's why I also I wanted to ask a lot of these questions because it's like when you're helping women, you're not just helping them with their period. It's like you said, you're helping them holistically. And so like when you're looking holistically, you're looking at the entire person, their entire situation, what's all going on. So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like, for women who are listening and they suspect they might have this issue, like with the amenorrhea, or if they have something, how would they know like they have the HA for that hypo or not hypo? I'm trying. What's the word again?
Thalamic amenorrhea, how do they know if this is what they have?
Yeah,
Out.
versus like the PCOS.
Yeah, so PCOS, it's a misconception that long-term amenorrhea is actually a symptom of PCOS. With PCOS, you will eventually get a period, right? Even if it's 3 months apart, you will get a period. And then the
Yeah.
lab work actually is quite different. PCOS presents as a high luteinizing hormone with normal high estrogen. Amenorrhea presents as everything is low. Everything is in ratio and low. So a lot of people will be told actually that their labs look, quote, normal. That can be a diagnostic criteria of HA. But I have a lab guide for that shows everyone the difference between PCOS, premature ovarian insufficiency, hypothalamic amenorrhea, how you can read your own labs, compare. This is something we do for people who are even just interested in coaching. We get on a call with them, we look at their labs because we make sure you have HA before we, so that's also a part of it. But all of those resources are available inside of the HA Society, which is free for 7 days. So if someone thinks maybe this is me, this could be me, but I'm not sure, go to the hasociety.com, because on the website I have a lot of resources about what is HA and blog posts and all these things. But also if you join the society, you can get all the resources that will help you determine if this is you or not. If it's not, just cancel and leave and go in the direction that you should, that is for you. But if it is for you, then perfect. You found the right place to be. And then you can resolve the issue right there because we have all the instructions, right? So good news is if you think it might be you, there's a pretty easy path to determining if it is or not.
That's awesome. That makes it super simple. So what's the best way for audience to get in contact with you? Because like I said, I like it. Can we find you on like Instagram, like learn more, or like how are you letting people know about what it is you do?
At the HA Society, mostly on Instagram. We post a lot of educational stuff on there. And also it's a good, once you go on your journey of recovery, like we discussed, it can be uncomfortable and scary. And so it's a good place to get a lot of encouragement and motivation and the message that you should and need to be hearing on social media. If that's a journey you're on, it's a good account to follow.
Awesome. So that's very helpful. And then like when you said, well, like for the after, I'm like, so what happens after you get your period back that surprises people?
What happened that surprised? Oh, you know what always surprises people? That it was just never as hard as they thought it was going to be. And
Really?
getting their cycle optimized. Like they all just thought they were more sick than they really were. And so they're like, oh, that really worked. Like, I think we just get so used to being like the unicorn and there's something wrong with me because the doctors didn't know what was wrong. And no one could tell me what was wrong. And I just resonate with like everything is hard for me, right? And that's so common. So when we do this and we nail it and the average recovery time is within 3 months and you're off to the races, then that's pretty surprising.
Yeah, that would be. It's weird, like how the simple little things surprises us, because that's another belief. Everything has to be hard. So I'm not going to make this hard for you at all. What is the best way for our audience to get in contact with you? Just one more time, so we've got that.
Yeah, just the HA Society Instagram or the hasociety.com.
Awesome.
As always, I just want to thank you for your time and energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Healing for the Soul podcast wherever you get your downloads, you're listening to your podcasts, and keep coming back for more episodes. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast, which also can be found on YouTube.